Welcome to Veteran Resource Podcast, where you will meet nonprofit organizations focused on improving the lives of veterans and their family members. Here is your host, Jeremy Paris.
Welcome, everybody, to episode 82 of the Veteran Resource Podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy Paris. It's been a few weeks. We had the little vacation going on for the holidays, and I'm glad that we did because it's a lot of work doing the podcast, getting everything all set, setting up the interviews and putting it all together. It's a lot of work, believe it or not. And sometimes having those few weeks really re-energizes me and puts me back in the right frame of mind to give you the content that you guys deserve. So we're back now and ready to bring you a great week of content. Today's episode, we have Joe Witte from Bunker Labs, and this is going to appeal to all of the entrepreneurs out there because Bunker Labs is an accelerator for veteran and military entrepreneurs, and they have a mission to educate, inspire, and connect the veteran community with leading entrepreneurs and VCs in order to build thriving businesses and illustrate the value military experience brings in developing innovative companies. And today's guest, Joe Witte, is the current program director for Bunker Labs Philadelphia, an accelerator for veteran entrepreneurs. Joe is a former captain in the U.S. Army Transportation Corps. He served for 9 years as a reservist in logistics and completed a tour in Baghdad for Operation Iraqi Freedom in 2004. He was awarded the Army Commendation Medal for his outstanding service. He is also a volunteer for the Liberty USO, serving on the Marketing and Communications Committee. Joe is an internet entrepreneur with a marketing and business development background in the digital and media industries. Joe is currently the VP of Global Business Development for ISEBOX, a cloud-based communications content distribution platform. Joe is also a proud husband and father of 5 kids. Whether you're an entrepreneur or not, I know you're going to enjoy this episode. So let's jump right in. Joe, welcome to the Veteran Resource Podcast. How you doing this evening?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me, Jeremy.
I'm pretty excited to have you on. In fact, on a different episode, we were talking to Mike Penny, and he also works with Bunker Labs. So he gave kind of just a teaser of what Bunker Labs is. And I bet you that there's some listeners out there that have heard that, and they're now wondering, because I kind of teased them a little bit and said that you were going to be coming on and talking about it. So they probably can't wait to hear what you have to say about it. But let's just start off with maybe just a brief description of what is Bunker Labs.
Sure. Yeah, our objective is to help inspire, educate, and connect veteran entrepreneurs, either current veterans who are starting a business or want to start a business, to help develop a community in order to really become self-sustainable in their business and showcase the innovation that we're able to do as veterans.
Very nice. I can't wait to dive into that some more. But first, let's get a little bit about your background. What can you tell me about you?
Man, where to start? I guess I'll go back to what led me to become an entrepreneur. Maybe even before that, some military background. So both my grandfathers are retired full colonels. My father's retired lieutenant colonel. My stepbrother just retired as lieutenant colonel, which ages me, and it frightened me a little bit. And my sister went to the Naval Academy, so obviously a long line of military history in my family. I was at Penn State ROTC. In the Clinton era, went straight to the reserves and the Transportation Corps. So I really went straight to the civilian sector after I graduated from college and ended up from New York City out to San Francisco in the dot boom, but was more bust for me than boom in the early 2000s. And at that point in time, after myself and a lot of friends had been laid off once or twice out in the Bay Area, said, you know what, I think I can start my own business. And it was partly out of necessity, which happens, and started my first company and realized this isn't that overwhelming. And at least in this case, with starting my own business, I'll be the second to last person laid off or the last person laid off. As it may be. And then shortly after starting another company, I got the phone call, which is time to go get deployed. And I served a tour over in Iraq after starting the company and came back. And it was a struggle. It was a difficult time just being deployed. My wife was pregnant at the time, and having a startup business and getting it going again really put me through a grind, but learned a lot of good life lessons. One thing is, as far as being a business owner and an entrepreneur, you're stretched. I always tell people it's a journey, not a destination. You learn about things that you didn't really want to learn about before, but you have to out of necessity. And I felt isolated for sure. I didn't have a network or a connection of other business leaders that could have saved me a lot of pain. Certainly veterans who could relate to some of the challenges that revolved around what we're going to. So eventually getting the business up on our feet, and we managed to get to a point where we were doing pretty decent revenue, $5 million in annual revenue, and led to an exit, not a great exit, but a decent exit. I felt like, kids are a little bit older and could able to take what I learned and give back to my fellow veteran business owners.
So I've got a bunch of questions just from that, but let's start with this one. You mentioned that you started the business is going, and then you got deployed.
Yeah.
Did your business continue to work or go or operate while you were deployed?
It did. I had a co-founder, and he was located overseas. So it was an international company that we started, and it was essentially branding, logo design, web design, all automated and online. And I threw a pretty heavy workload on my wife to handle that, on top of being pregnant and dealing with her husband being deployed. And I had some friends who honestly picked up as much as they could at the time. It's not quite the same when you're not there. We were really starting out to begin with, and I was asking a lot for people to pick up who were thrown in the middle of it. But it held it together enough till I got back, and it was probably another year and a half to we're able to get back in the swing of things to recover from that. But it was a trying time for sure. Yeah,
I bet. So let's get into Bunker Labs a little bit. How did Bunker Labs get started?
It really was the brainchild of Todd Connor, our CEO. And if you haven't met Todd, a very intelligent, inspiring, and motivating person. You never see Todd without a smile. And what he recognized as an entrepreneur himself, which is, like a lot of veterans want to start businesses. And after doing some research, found that after World War II, I think some crazy number, like 40% of veterans started businesses. And right now they've done research, and around 24% of veterans would like to start businesses, but only 6% are.
Really?
Absolutely. There's a significant gap between the people who'd like to and the people who are actually doing that. So really one of our objectives is to say, hey, you can do this, and let's create an environment where you can do that and nurture those companies and inspire them in order to do their own thing and be innovative and bring their skills that they have to our communities.
Very nice. And Bunker Labs, you said it's only a couple of years old. Is that correct?
Correct. 2014 is when we started. And with his leadership and guidance and vision, what we've been able to do in 2 years is honestly monumental. And it has a lot to do with him and a lot of people just coming together for the greater good.
And it's grown to a lot of locations now. How many locations do you have?
We're in 13 locations, right? 13 different cities right now.
Very nice. And that's all around the country?
It is. We just planted one in San Francisco, down to Jacksonville. We're planting one in Seattle, up to New York City and Philadelphia, so down to Austin. So we're all over the country. There's a link on bunkerlabs.org where there's a link right there that says locations, where you can identify all the different cities that we're currently located in.
Very nice. And I understand you have some close to me. I'm here in Annapolis.
We do. We're in D.C., and of course I'm up here running the Philadelphia location.
Very nice. So I'm going to have to get out there and check these out for sure.
Absolutely.
Do you know if there's plans to expand beyond?
There are, but Todd's a pretty wise guy. He wants to make sure that, we're not cautious to overexpand too fast. We've got a model, getting the right leadership in place and getting it secured and getting, our partners comfortable with how we're executing is really important. We don't want to get ahead out of our skis. So getting the right people and the model down is really important for us. So, I know that it's something we want to do, but this is really Todd's vision to determine when the right time is to get the right people in the different locations.
Gotcha. And so for these locations, who can get plugged in? Who is allowed to benefit from Bunker Labs?
Well, honestly, anybody. Typically when it comes to our cohorts, we accept veterans and veteran spouses. However, we have other events that are all-encompassing or welcoming to all. One, we have Bunker in a Box. And so Bunker in a Box is an online digital solution that can guide companies that want to start businesses with classes and education, and that's online, and anybody's welcome to use that. You don't have to be a veteran or a veteran spouse. Here in Philadelphia and in most of the other cities, we have a monthly event called Bunker Brews. And Bunker Brews is really community engagement. So we have different speakers. You had Dr. Ken Hartman, who is an Army veteran, former president of Drexel Online, John New, amazing entrepreneur here, Army infantry guy who started a real estate company, who come and just talk about their experience and their journey and all the challenges they've gone through to provide guidance. Then we sit around and have a couple beers and eat pizza, and about 30 to 40 of us get together just to really inspire people who may be thinking about doing it, as well as providing some guidance and answering questions and giving some good networking at that time. And on top of that, we have all the cities have our flagship event called the Muster. And the Muster is really just highlighting veteran innovation. We'll have the mayor of Philadelphia at ours. Some of them have had governors who are available. High-level brass or generals. We'll have Brigadier General Carol Eggert, who runs the Veterans Program at Comcast, join us for our event. And then we've got Matt Griffin from Combat Flip Flops, who was on Shark Tank, who's going to come speak and just also highlight some of the cool veteran companies who are in our cohort here. Just talk about really what they're doing and the impact they're having and lessons learned. Very
nice. That sounds really cool. Something I definitely want to attend.
Absolutely. And anybody's welcome to those.
Now that I'm really curious here, could you walk me through just a textbook scenario for the veteran that's out there that's listening right now and they're like, you know what? I really would love to start a business. I just got out of the military. I'm not really sure what I should be doing, but this sounds awesome. And so they come to your Bunker Labs. What can they expect when they show up? Walk me through what they're going to see.
You got it. So there's, on bunkerlabs.org, there's a contact us location. And so you can select the location and say, hey, here's where I'm located. Here's what I'm thinking about. Connect me. And then we'll have, somebody from our central location connect you with the right team and guide you. So let's say, just for sake of argument, that somebody's connected in the Philadelphia area. Either myself or we've got a gentleman, Robert Land, who's just an amazing entrepreneur. We'll hop on the phone just to find out what stage your company is at and where we can best serve you. So, we have people that may be too early for us to join our cohort but connect with Bunker Labs. But we do partnerships with St. Joe's. I met with Ralph Galati today, and they run kind of an earlier stage cohort program that is a 9 days intensive course just to get people started. Penn State has some programs they're getting rolling there. And so there's a lot of different organizations, Syracuse, that can help people like, hey, I have an idea. Let me shake this out to find out what steps I need to take. But I'm happy to hop on the phone and answer somebody's questions about, hey, what kind of organization do I need to start? What kind of entity do I need to start? Just guide people through that process. And if there's a good fit with their company and what they're doing, we have an application process on bunkerlabsphl.com where they can apply to our cohort and we can sort through and hopefully get them in here to be a part of our 16-week program that'll start in January.
16-week program. Wow. And so during the 16-week program, what are they going to be coming in contact with? What are they going to be doing?
Great question. So we're laying out a syllabus that, is kind of a practical syllabus just to take a look at how to present themselves, branding, bringing in different venture capitalists and investors and see people to say, hey, here's what you need to know. Here's how you need to present your company. Proper branding and marketing, public relations, good financial practices. And an important part of what we're going to do in our next cohort is really the mentoring portion. So breaking down what their goals are, where they want to be from a revenue perspective. I'm really activating them from a technology component on having their email marketing, their CRM squared away, their kind of accounting best practices, and using some of the technology that's available. So using technology in order to allow them to focus on biz dev and sales and product development, and not have to worry about a lot of the stuff that happens in between. So, I mean, there's so many different areas and components that determine whether or not a business is successful, that we want to really, what we want to do is mitigate risk, as well as guide on, hey, these are the pitfalls that often can occur, that businesses make mistakes on, that they need to avoid. So this, I could probably talk to you about this for weeks, Jeremy. But it's a fun class. It's very collaborative. It's very much not me standing in front of a classroom or our guest speakers coming and standing in front of a classroom. We sit down and have conversations and some required reading that we give discussion points on, that come together and brainstorm and talk about what's going on, and all support one another in the process.
That sounds amazing. So during this time, are some of the people that are going through this 16-week course, are they also trying to run their current company at the same time?
Correct. So it's not a 16-week full-time class.
Okay.
We'll meet for 3 hours a week, essentially, Wednesday morning. So naturally, they're running their business at the same time, and they have families, and sometimes they're going to school. You know, we engage, once a week for a handful of hours, and then they go and break and execute on their company, and then come back. So what's great is that as we all come back, we come back with new information, new ideas, new challenges, and we get to see how they're growing and go back and do research, and also bring in thought leaders and experts who can talk to them or advise them as they're encountering new challenges.
Oh, that's incredible. Do they get any contact with venture capitalists or anything like that?
You know, that's actually a good point. We were able to bring in Josh Koppelman to speak to our cohort. And Josh runs First Round Capital, and First Round's probably one of the top 10 largest VC firms in the country, if not the world. And he's based here in Philadelphia, and is just, he's just such a wealth of information. And he came in and talked to our cohort about, like, well, here's why you don't want my money. And let me break down the financial aspects of what the impact is if I come in and I provide an investment in your firm. And just the way he was able to explain it and break it down in ways that we could all understand was enlightening, because everybody thinks, like, yeah, I want money from First Round Capital. Like, that's the pinnacle. He's like, are you sure you want that? Because I don't want your business to hit a home run. I want you to hit a home run at the bottom of the ninth of the World Series. So here's what I expect back from you. And do you think you can get an exit of $500 million or $200 million? Is that what kind of business you are? And this is what comes with that. So when you hear that from that capacity, like, you know what, maybe $250,000 from Ben Franklin Technology Partners makes more sense. That's a better fit, because that's really all I need. So a lot of entrepreneurs think they just want any money from anybody. What you really start to break it down is that's not true. They are looking for certain things, and you need to look for certain things too, and find the right fit. And so a lot of that is enlightening on making the match. So what we're able to do too is help our companies identify our companies and what they need, and make the fits for them, and make those introductions, which makes it much more meaningful for everybody. Gotcha.
And angel funding might be one of those other options too?
Correct. Now, we don't take equity. We don't invest. We are here solely for the purpose to help veteran-run companies become successful and self-sustainable. And we feel like by doing that, the concept is that they most likely will be hiring other veterans in the future to help run their business. And a large part of what we're doing is changing the narrative about what veterans are capable of doing, right? So there's a lot of negative conversations around veterans, and it's happening, so it's not inaccurate. But what veterans are capable of doing, and what value we bring to our community, is certainly overlooked in today's age. But as it comes down to, when you talk about seed funding, a lot of it is just making those connections with the right people and validating, hey, you need to speak to this person in this company. They're doing great things. And when we can come in and give and edify them and endorse somebody, I think it helps. It helps kind of both sides in making that connection and saving a lot of time.
Yeah, I have noticed that veteran-led companies, they seem to be really good at, I don't know, I think the veteran is normally very process-driven the whole time
Yes.
that you're in the military. You're doing things by processes. There's a regulation for everything. I mean, you literally can't walk down the street without following what's in a regulation that says how far your hand swings forward and backward. So there's a process for everything. And when you look at businesses, small businesses, the ones who have processes are being run more like a franchise and less like a mom and pop shop. And for the businesses where they're just kind of, day to day shooting from the hip, trying to put out all the fires, those are the ones that are not going to be very sustainable over a long period of time. And so when a veteran gets their own business going, one of the first things they usually do is put those processes in place. And I really think that goes a long way into making them successful.
Unquestionable. Understanding procedure and how to establish that is important. So, veterans that have had good experience in the field as well as in garrison, I think bring something special. So one, in the field, like sometimes you have to throw those processes out the window, right, Jeremy?
Yeah.
It's a matter of thinking on your feet, making things work with what you have, being innovative, being a problem solver, learning how to communicate. Sometimes just in your own environment where you get different people from all over the country with different cultures and how to make that work. But now if you're overseas and deployed, now you're communicating with completely different cultures. So communication is important, understanding chain of command. And even contingency, like understanding what contingency and risks are available to your business that can threaten it as you get started. So those are all really important traits that help veterans that they are unconsciously competent in and don't think about, that lend them to be good business leaders. But there are some traits too that business leaders, we want to unwind a little bit and say, hey, no, you did this over here in the military, but sometimes you don't have to ask permission all the time. Don't take everything so literal all the time. Sometimes you need to break the rules and just go make it happen and be a doer in as an entrepreneur and just go. Everything doesn't have to be perfect. Just go and do and believe, and you almost give them permission to just make things happen. Some habits we need to break as well.
Good points. Definitely have to break some of those. So is there for any of the programs that you have, is there any cost to the veteran?
For ours, there is no cost. Everything is based on contribution and donations and partnerships on our end. JP Morgan Chase and Comcast have been good supporters of ours, and we're developing those out. But we don't charge anything, and I think it's part of it just to keep it simple and clean and understand that we have one goal, and our goal is to help the companies that we engage with be successful and do great things, and to be very open and honest with them about what they're doing. And we don't want to mix and match any ulterior motives in that. And we think the best way to do that is by not taking equity or by charging anything.
Very nice. You specifically mentioned spouses can be part of this. How about children of veterans? Do they fit into the scenario as well?
Not as of now.
Okay.
Certainly things may change along the line. Now, hey, listen, if you have a father and a son, and the father is the veteran or the son's the veteran, they're in it together, absolutely. There'll be times when there may be a business run by a veteran and they have a co-founder who may show up and participate, and we certainly encourage that because it's a business we're trying to help here. But for right now, we're focused on veteran and veteran spouses.
Gotcha.
But at the same time, we do have open events that anybody's welcome to come and learn. So for us, Muster, Bunker Brews is really open to the community who's interested in what we're doing, is interested in entrepreneurship or veteran innovation. They're all welcome.
And speaking of those events, what events do you have coming up?
Oh, we've got our Muster, what we call the Muster Big Ideas for America, coming up November 16th here in Philadelphia at the Penn Innovation Center, and that's going to run from 1 to 9 o'clock p.m. We're going to have catering by Mission Barbecue. It is free to veterans and active military. And if you've ever had a uniform on, it's free to you and to your spouse. For any non-veterans or those who haven't served, it's $50, and it's really a contribution. And we are going to have just some amazing speakers come join us. We're going to have Matt Griffin from Combat Flip Flops and Carol Eggert from Comcast, David Silverman, former Navy SEAL, who's the CEO of CrossLead. Basically, he took a lot of the practices that they had to enact with McChrystal in Afghanistan and basically create a business. Here's how we need to flatten communication, use technology to flatten that communication, come and talk about their experiences. So it should be very inspiring, and a chance to go and walk around and meet a lot of these veteran innovators and see what kind of businesses they're starting and what we're capable of doing.
That sounds incredible. Yeah, I'm definitely going to have to get out to one of those.
We'd love to have you and have your audience join us for sure.
Awesome. How do you go about including the whole community with some of these events?
We certainly try to reach out through the media and through email. And what you guys can do as far as learning more, for Philadelphia, go to bunkerlabsphl.com, and there's an area on there to sign up. Put your email in there, and we'll send out regular newsletter updates on what we're doing. The same thing goes for Bunker Labs, bunkerlabs.org. There's an email registration where you can keep in touch and find out either how you can get engaged with your local community Bunker Labs, or just what's happening on a national level and what you can do.
Very nice. Is there anything you feel that I missed before we get into the final 3 questions?
I think you've done a great job. I think the one thing that we're really are focused on next year as well, which is how we can give back in the community. And so, there's a couple key mantras that I want us to focus on that we want to do. So one I talk about, which is think, believe, do, and give. So if anybody has an idea or a problem they want to solve, or that they can start a business with, like, hey, that's the first thought, and it starts there. And then just the ability to believe it. So some people end it there like, man, I don't think I can do that. I don't think I'm capable of achieving this because I haven't done it before. I haven't been an accountant. But it really starts in believing in yourself and surrounding yourself with people who can believe in what you're doing too. And then just doing it. Sometimes it's kind of a fake it till you make it. Let me just go make things happen and make calls and not be afraid and introduce myself to people or getting connected. And one of those doing things is getting connected with organizations like Bunker Labs. It doesn't have to be Bunker Labs. And the last is really giving. And that's giving to your customers, giving to your employees, not making it about yourself, and giving back to the community in some way. And I think when you combine all those elements, that's when great things can happen. One example of that is Sylvester Mobley. He's in our cohort. Sylvester started a company called Coded by Kids. And really what he saw is, he grew up in inner city Philadelphia. He saw a lot of people he grew up with were either killed or in jail. And he said, you know what? Like, the future for our country isn't good for inner city kids. Let me go see how I can teach them coding. So he sat himself down at community centers and just said, hey, I'm here if anybody wants to learn how to code. Started off with one kid for several months and just taught this kid coding. Next thing you know, that kid's mom sent the sibling and taught them. And now he's got a nonprofit, Coded by Kids, and has a deal with the city of Philadelphia and the mayor, who's going to be at our event and talking about what they're doing to build that in a for-profit version called Coded by You, teaching adults and veterans and how to code and do development. So sometimes it just starts with an idea and just doing things. And I think that's what we're all about, is supporting companies who start with an idea and make it happen.
Oh, that's great. That is incredible. And that's very familiar. I mean, that's how I started this podcast. Was I had the idea of, I need to get the word out to veterans about all of the amazing nonprofits that are out there to help them. How do I do it? Well, I'm listening to podcasts. You know what? I'm going to start my own podcast. And from there, I had the idea, and I had no idea how to do it, but that's all I needed was the idea to start moving forward and start learning what I needed to learn and making the connections that I needed to make. And now I'm in, groups that have literally thousands of other podcasters in them, and they're my peers. We talk on a daily basis and, help each other out. You just got to start with that idea and keep moving forward.
Yep. And I think that's a really important part of what we provide, Jeremy, is we bring in leading business people and entrepreneurs in the community, and just have them sit and talk with our cohort. And when you hear their stories, we brought in Nick Baer from Saxby's Coffee, and he's like, I had an idea. I ended up with $100,000 in my credit card to start this coffee company, and I didn't know anything about coffee. I understood hospitality and the risks he took and how he drove forward and couldn't fail. You start to think like, all right, this is doable, and I'm not alone. And it just starts with execution and doing things a little bit better and grinding through and having grit. Then that's what really drives our cohort and the veteran community to say, hey, I can do this and make it happen.
That's excellent. Absolutely awesome. Love it. Love what you guys are doing over there.
Thank you. And I appreciate you having us.
Joe, we are going to get into the final three now. So let's start off with the first one. Who would you like to hear on a future episode of the Veteran Resource Podcast?
Well, there's an organization that we know very well called the Travis Manion Foundation. Have you had them on yet?
I have not, no.
So the Travis Manion Foundation was started with and inspired by Travis Manion. And Travis Manion was, I think, All-American wrestler in Pennsylvania. He's from the Doylestown area. I went to the Naval Academy. He was deployed. I believe he was a Marine. And he was getting ready to go back for his second tour. And, somebody asked him, saying, well, why would you go back? And he said, if not me, then who? And so he went back and he was killed over there. And so his family and his friends and followers created the Travis Manion Foundation. It is a very powerful and one of the leading nonprofits in the country. And their mantra is, of course, if not me, then who? It's all about giving back to communities and bringing veterans who are returning a purpose to give back to their community. One of them is a gentleman by the name of James Brobin. And James is in our cohort now. He came back, was a Purple Heart awardee, was injured in an IED, lost his driver, came back and dealt with some struggles for a little while, started volunteering at the Travis Manion Foundation, ended up as the executive director and helped them raise millions and millions of dollars. Handed it over. He felt like he got it in good shape and handed it over to somebody else there. And now he started a for-profit. But their current director is Ryan Manion, is Travis's sister. And I'd love to hear her experience and her story, learn more about Travis as an individual and what inspired her and what they're doing at that foundation.
Well, I will definitely be reaching out. That sounds like it would be an incredible interview.
Yeah, I'd love to hear it myself.
All right, question number 2. What upcoming project has you fired up right now?
It's without a doubt the muster coming up on November 16th. So I think earlier in the year, I had this conversation with our executive director, Mike Mayer, and Mike's a great guy, again, Naval Academy grad, started this co-working space here in Philadelphia, Benjamin's Desk. And I'm like, Mike, I can help run the program, the organization, but don't have a lot of event experience. Sure enough, I'm here knee deep in getting the muster going. I've got some great help from Katie Everett, but it's part of being an entrepreneur and running a program is we just learn things on the fly. Getting together some great speakers and we just tonight had a conference call with about 10 of us, getting the run of show going and figuring out how we're going to do some decor. Maybe we get some entertainment, some speakers, and how we can drive and let more people know to get them there. So. This is the project that is keeping me up at night. It's the muster for PHL, Big Ideas for America, coming up November 16th. Hopefully to inspire some more veterans to start their own business.
Awesome. I'm hoping that some of the listeners from this will get out there and definitely check that out.
Absolutely.
Okay, the final question, and this is the brain stretcher. If you woke up tomorrow and you found out that somebody made an anonymous donation of $10 million to your organization, what would you do with it?
That's a great question. And there's a lot of things we would like to do. So we talk about, certainly in 2017, where we could take this organization going to 2018, 2019. So one, certainly I'd be sharing this nationally with our other cities. They're all doing great things and they've inspired me. And help answer a lot of questions. And what we right now we've got 2 cohorts planned for next year. What we've already identified is that businesses are not all the same, right? So you may have a high-tech growth company that has different needs and may want to raise capital. You may have more of a, for lack of a better term, a lifestyle business that doesn't need to raise money. They need to start gaining customers and get into customer acquisition. So I would probably divide and conquer, get some different cohorts going there and get the best people possible to run those cohorts. I'd love to take that money and invest in those companies, provide grants for them. No strings attached. If you're admitted into the cohort, here's $10,000 to start your business, get some things going and to go do great things. So probably have different classes maybe for earlier stage and maybe start some later stage company support. So those would be some different ideas for what we'd love to do with $10 million is take it and invest it right back into see what great things our veteran innovators can do.
That sounds awesome. So for the person out there who's got an extra $10 million laying around, you're trying to figure out what amazing organization could benefit from using that? You just heard what Joe can do with it for Bunker Labs. So for that person or for anybody else out there who might have a smaller amount of money that they want to donate, how can they get in contact with you?
Sure. joe.witte@bunkerlabs.org. My phone number is 215-359-8898. Please reach out or shoot me a text. We can set up a time to talk. And again, our national website is bunkerlabs.org. Here in Philadelphia, it's bunkerlabsphl.com, and there's a contact us form on there. We'll talk to you any way you want to talk to us. We just really appreciate the support. The community's been amazing. Jeremy, these things matter. So what you're doing has an impact. All of us play an important role, and just want to thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. And thank you for coming on the show. I really wanted to find out more about Bunker Labs, and I feel like I have a strong hold on what it is you guys are doing now, and I would love to get plugged in a little bit more. So I am going to try to find out what's going on with the one here in D.C. since they're pretty close, and find out when I could get out to a muster.
You got it.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I hope that you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed interviewing Joe. As always, make sure you go and you check out the show notes, which you can find at veteranresourcepodcast.com/082. You can get all of the information on Joe and on Bunker Labs and find the links to get you over to get plugged into Bunker Labs, which I really hope if you're an entrepreneur, you do. You check them out and you see what they have to offer, see if it's for you. I think it might be. It's really cool. If you have not yet, please go over to iTunes and leave us a review. That really helps other people to find us and get the word out to other veterans so that they can learn about all of the nonprofits that are out there. So let's help each other out and let's spread the word. Thank you so much. I've got a great new episode coming to you tomorrow, which will be all about personal branding. I think you're going to really like it. All right, I'll see you in episode 83.